What's up, junk removal people? Today I'm going to talk about something that happened to me in the course of operating my junk removal business a few years ago now. How I got conned out of about $2,300 from a Houston business owner. Before I get into all the specifics, I got to set the context a little bit so that some of the things that this guy did make more sense. Otherwise, this story is going to be really convoluted, as a lot of cons probably are. And some of what he did might almost seem believable until you dig a little deeper into the details and little lies he told along the way that I didn't quite realize until it was too late, in retrospect. So, if you don't know about me, I did junk removal for a long time. I owned a company called Snap Junk Removal. We would go haul waste from people's houses or from people's businesses and just charge by volume. And this particular person or entity I did the work for, he, after looking at news articles and stuff, he bought an existing large landscaping company in the Houston area. So he's not the one who started it. He bought it from somebody else, and that's very important to the rest of the story. And so they would do landscaping for big box stores, in big shopping centers, well, according to him anyway. And also they would do landscaping related to houses, like installing pools and backyard patio type stuff. And they would sub out a lot of the work to subcontractors. So I started working with this person. I got a call to remove some trash from outside their trash compactor. It's probably a 30 or 40 yard trash compactor, very large, for their commercial facility in Houston, near downtown. And I sent out some workers to do it, and the first day they removed about 2 trailer loads of waste. And I had assurances from the owner that called me on the phone that payment wouldn't be a problem. And so they loaded up 2 trailers from around this trash compactor and went to get paid at the end of the day. And they said they had some trouble getting paid. Finally, they found somebody that could write them a check, and so they got a check for about $600. I was giving this guy a deal on what I was charging per load on the trailer, because it was easy to get to. The trash was right by the compactor. They could roll right up to it and load up the trash. It was easy in and out, no problem. And also, it's important to note what this guy said, why he needed the trash removed, and why the compactor, they weren't just filling the compactor with the trash. He said that the compactor was full, and they had a lot of trash coming in and out, though, because they have like 20 something trucks doing landscaping stuff, and they haul the trash from the customers' properties. And so they couldn't get to the compactor to empty it because there was too much trash around it. Fair enough. That sounds believable. So anyway, send the workers out. They get paid for the first day. I talked to the owner. He says, yeah, come back a second day. I realize it's going to be expensive. It's fine. You'll get paid. So I go back the second day. We load up like another 5 trailers worth of trash. By the end of the day, it was getting kind of late. There weren't workers in the office. It was a big office, but they had already gone home for the day. And so whatever accountant person we needed to talk to couldn't write us a check because they weren't there. So fine. Fair enough, there was still trash to be removed, so we agreed to come the next day, and we're assured that payment wouldn't be a problem. So we go the next day, we haul away another like 3 or 4 trailer loads worth of stuff. Again, it was late in the day. We couldn't find whatever accountant person to pay us, even though we had gone into the office and made sure that we were clear that it wasn't going to be a problem. Ended up being a problem at the end of the day. Okay, we go home for the day. The next day, I tried to get a hold of somebody. I couldn't get a hold of somebody to get paid. I'm kind of fast forwarded a little bit through the shenanigans. The original person I talked to basically started ghosting me, not picking up my phone calls. A few weeks went by, and I finally get a hold of him using a different phone number, which already, if somebody's dodging your phone calls like that and they owe you a few $1,000s, all in all, I ended up charging him, I think, like $3,000 for the job, but I only got 600 of it from the first check. But anyways, when somebody starts like dodging your calls, you already know you're not getting paid in junk removal, or they're gonna make you work for it. And then I had other jobs going on. Anyway, a few weeks later, I ended up going into their office, and there's like 6 or 7 other people in their office waiting room, and they all seem pretty pissed off and angry. And I start listening to some of what they're saying. Before I get into that, one of the first people that walked in was an ice machine vendor, so somebody that rents out ice machine equipment for big office type settings. And they basically talked to the secretary and like, hey, we got to get in and haul our equipment back. You're having payment issues. If you can't pay us, we don't have a relationship. We got to haul the stuff. And they ended up letting them go back to the rest of the warehouse area to take their stuff. So already I'm nervous because like that doesn't bode well for me getting paid. And then I hear some of these other contractor guys complaining to whoever they can talk to about how they're owed like $20,000 or $30,000, for this backyard pool landscaping job they did, or this concrete that they laid down. And I'm just like, I already know I'm not going to get paid. So before I went that day, I had gotten an insufficient funds notice from the bank regarding the first check they wrote me. So it was $600 plus tax. It was like, I don't know, $650 something that basically got taken out of my bank account. And whenever the bank does an insufficient funds thing, they don't like call you and let you know or email you. They send something in the mail, and they basically don't want to hear you complain or deal with it at all. It's just like a silent like, hey, fuck you, here's a funds letter, it's your problem, deal with it somehow. So when I went in that day to the office, I was already pissed. So I ended up talking to some office lady, and I get an attitude with her, and she called me out on it, and I was like, I don't care, like, I talked to you guys before and you said payment wasn't going to be an issue, and now I have this insufficient funds check. I ended up being at that office for like an hour, and finally I got a check for like $700, a rewritten check because of that insufficient funds check. And they said, oh, we're going to get you your money. It's going to take us a minute. We've been having some problems. We didn't get paid by a management company or something, and so you'll be fine though. We're going to take care of you. Just like for now, here's the check for the insufficient funds. Like, okay, whatever. I'll leave for that day. I keep on trying to get a hold of the owner and people, in the coming weeks. And when I have free time, I basically went in that office and fucking stalked that dude. I don't care, And finally, I harassed the office people enough, and I got to talk to the owner. And he was very unapologetic, very stone-faced, not trying to display any information. And he basically explained to me that his company had got screwed by another company that they did work for, by a third-party management company, basically that gets the work from these big box stores and then farms it out to subcontractors, which his company was one of the subcontractors, according to him. And so I asked him a little bit about the numbers on that. Well, how much were they getting paid? He claimed they owed him like $3 million or something. So I was asking him, well, how much do you get paid, per job, and how many do you do a week? And just running the math through my head, just see if this guy's completely full of it. And he was, and I called him out on it, and it didn't matter. Short of like, fighting the guy and beating his ass into the ground, like he wasn't gonna acknowledge that he's completely full of it, as any con person never would, right? I end up leaving, and I've got my own money problems, right? I've still got to continue work. I can't focus any more energy on this person who's not going to give me money. All I can do is focus on like legal means to try to collect. And so I start doing a little research online on this guy, and come to find out he's got check fraud issues in Colorado, even though he's operating in Texas now. So you already know if somebody's got check fraud, that's an issue. What else? Looked up news articles about how he bought this company. And then since I'm driving around all day doing junk removal jobs, I get to see what's out in the world, and I happen to notice that one of his trucks, one of his company trucks, of which he had like 20, like all like brand new trucks, right? Nice equipment, employs, a whole bunch of people. But anyway, I see a mechanic shop that I think it had like two of those companies' trucks, and I walked in and to talk to the owner, because I just want to let him know, hey, like, this guy's not going to pay you. You might not want to work on his stuff. And so, yeah, I talked to the owner of that mechanic shop, and he was like, yeah, dude, we know. They tried to come pick up this truck after we did work for them, and they still owe us a few $1,000s. Oh, yeah. And the secretary at his office is my niece, and she hadn't gotten paid for the past month either. So, yeah, we know that they're screwing everybody. And also, with those new trucks, I come to understand that he wasn't making the payments on the trucks either. So not only was he getting mechanic work done on them, but just the lease on the truck, they weren't even paying. What else? So I did some research online and some of the reviews on this company. So not only were they doing landscaping stuff for big companies, but also doing work at residential houses. And so they were using subs to do the work. Come to find out from some customer complaints online that they had people doing like $30,000 of work for pool installs, and $40,000 for patio stuff, and like $10,000 for some grading of land and stuff. And so what this guy did is he had all these subs that had pre-existing relationships with this company that he bought. He had the subs do all this work and then just didn't pay them. And that had to have been hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know what I mean? Just from the few amounts of reviews I read online. So it's starting to seem like a scam, right? And oh yeah, and another thing this guy told me, the owner, whenever I was trying to get a hold of him and I called him out for like dodging my phone calls and not being able to reach the office, he had told me that somebody's truck had hit the phone box, that's usually out by the streets, and that's why the phones were turned off. And also, in retrospect, the reason why there was so much trash out by the trash compactor wasn't because they were late picking it up and the stuff had just built up. It was because he hadn't paid the trash compactor company. So somebody like that can sit here and say that the reason they didn't pay somebody else is because they didn't get paid themselves. But when you start looking at the lies that built up, he lied about the phone line. He lied about the trash situation. He lied about the amount he was owed. Anyway, it all, you add it up and realize, yeah, it's just fraud. And also he's already been arrested for check fraud in another state. Long story short, I ended up talking to a collection agency to try to get paid for this, $2,300 I'm still owed, and they do some investigating, and you can take legal action for that kind of thing, because I had like communications between us saved, and I had the insufficient funds check, and long story short, they end up declaring bankruptcy. And so he declared bankruptcy. He didn't go to jail so far as I know, and he blamed it all on a third-party company that supposedly owed him money. Also, with that check, I was considering pursuing check fraud specifically with that check, but the way it worked out was that the person in the office on the first day that wrote the check was not authorized to write the check. So they took a company check and they weren't authorized to write a check. And on top of that, the owner, who's ultimately responsible for all this shenanigans, he didn't write the check himself. So it was done by the business. So it's not a criminal thing that I can pursue because the person that wrote the check wasn't him. And so to do a broad overview, I think that if you want to get into the criminal element of it, this guy bought an existing company, I'm guessing probably even on credit. He used legal buffers because it was a LLC or a corporation entity, so he's basically not responsible for half of what goes on, some of the check writing and things like that. And then he blamed it on a third-party company. Anybody could say that it was a third-party management company. If he's really into the criminal element, he could even know somebody at that third-party management company, and it could be a mafia kind of thing. You know what I mean? If you can put like $3 million worth of debt on one person, but the person's not really on the hook because it's just a business deal, so the management company could just refuse to pay somebody and say, hey, come sue us. But if the person who's supposed to sue them doesn't go for it because they've got a connection there, it becomes very hard to prove fraud unless you're going to get a lawyer and do a big process of discovery, and then in the end you're going to pay for that lawyer, and you're probably not going to get paid anyway. You're just going to be out money while you still need to make money to pay your bills. So yeah, that's how I got conned for about $2,300 doing my junk removal business, and I just had to let it go. Nothing I could do short of doing illegal stuff.